everyone. Welcome to Coach's Corner, everyone. Thank you for watching and listening to the show. I'm your host, Coach Tripp. On this Saturday, we have a special occasion. The great Washington Redskin quarterback, Billy Kilmer. Billy, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thank you, Paul. I'm glad to do it.
My gosh, man, I gotta start out saying my father, who was a huge influence on my life, just an amazing guy with a great disposition and a love of sports. He was a Washington Redskins fan, and to this day, I wish I'd have asked him why, but I remember, sitting with him, watching football games, watching you play. Man, I just want to say thanks for doing this. You were born in Topeka, Kansas.
Yes, I was. I didn't spend much time there. World War II came along after I was born, and my dad was doing contract work around the Topeka area and Missouri. He was building roads. My grandfather business, and my grandfather sold out and moved to California, and we went out there for a vacation in 1943 or 4, one of those things, and we never came back. So I was raised in Southern California.
Yes, you were raised in California. Talk about did you have any siblings? Talk about your mom and dad growing up.
Yeah, well, I have a sister who's 2.5 years younger. My dad moved, like I said, mom and dad moved out there to California by my grandfather. And my dad got in the dry cleaning business in a little town called Azusa, California. And that's where I ended up being in the Azusa, Glendora area in Southern California, which is LA County. And, I went to high school there, and in fact, my old high school's not even there anymore. It's now all in the junior college out there, Citrus. And other than that, then I happened to, I didn't ever think I'd ever play football after my high school football game. I was never really, not really, I was always interested, but I wasn't really good at it. I made all league, on my senior year, but I was a better basketball player than a baseball player. That's where, I would probably end up. Mainly baseball. I love baseball in high school.
Yeah.
At that time, and I thought I'd be a professional baseball player.
Yeah, that was my next question. You were an amazing baseball and basketball player. In football, I guess, was your third. You're actually better in those two. You scored 1,500 points in basketball in high school at Citrus Union High School there in Azusa. And you went on actually to Azusa Community College before you went to UCLA. Talk about that.
Citrus High School, Citrus Junior College was right there on the same campus, and so I got recruited by UCLA at football. The reason I wanted to go to UCLA because they ran the single wing offense, and they had a coach there named Red Sanders. That when I got recruited by him, I fell in love with him. He was a hell of a guy and a very dynamic coach. And I always wanted to be a single wing tailback, and they ran the single wing. And that's probably how I got into football, because they recruited me. If they hadn't recruited me, but John Wooden tried to recruit me there to go play basketball too. But I was mainly, if I was going to go to college, if I was going to play football. I guess the biggest thing I'm going to lead into is out of high school, I was a good baseball player. And after my senior year, I got offered $50,000 to play with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And that was the first scout that came in to talk to my mom and dad. I was only 17 years old then, and needed their approval. And I had 3 other scouts that wanted to talk to us. And the scout came in and offered us all this money and everything, and he left. And then my mother put her foot down and said, "I'm not going to approve anything. He's going to college," told my dad. And he's going to finish college. He can always play baseball or sign a contract after his college is over. And when she said that, and my dad probably, he's a businessman. He saw that money right there. He was hard for him to swallow that, So anyway, I told him I had just got recruited by UCLA, and I said, "Well, look, I'll tell you this. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go take the UCLA scholarship to play for UCLA, and that's how I got into football. If it wasn't for my mother, I probably would have been a baseball player. Who knows? I'd probably be pressing pants in Azusa now."
Oh, Billy, that's a great story, man. Mama knows best, doesn't she? Oh my gosh, my mother used to say, "Not everybody's college material," because I wasn't the smartest of the 4 boys in our family.
Well, I wasn't either. I don't know how I got through school, but I did.
All right. Didn't you play in 1959 and 1960? Didn't you play 1 year of basketball for John Wooden?
Yeah, that was another story. I was playing intramural basketball at UCLA. I was playing for my fraternity between my sophomore and junior years, and we were in the finals of the little tournament that we had between all the fraternity houses, and I was at the UCLA gym, and I didn't know Coach Wood had come in and was watching the game. And I scored 42 points, and we won the game. And so one day, about a week later, I'm down in the coach's office, down in the football coach's office, but the coach's office with also the basketball coach was in the same office, but it was a Quatson Hunt Long. And I was in the office, and I heard a little voice calling me. I looked down the big aisle, and it was Coach Wood. He said, "Billy, come here, I want to talk to you." So I went down to his office, and that's when he said, "Would you like to come out after my junior year, going in my senior year, and play basketball?" And I said, "Sure. It'll keep me in shape." And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." So that's how I played 1 year for him.
Oh my gosh. Was it a title year?
No, it wasn't a memorable year. It might have been one of his worst years. I think he was like 14-12, our team at that time.
Yeah.
And that was before Gail Goodrich and some of those guys had just come in. I think I was a senior when Goodrich was a freshman,
Yeah, the 2 greatest college basketball coaches of all time, John Wooden and Mike Krzyzewski, they did not start out the world ablaze. They had losing records for a few years, and their administration stuck with them, and they ended up being the greatest of all time. That just shows you perseverance there.
Well, Wooden never had a losing season, but that was as close as he'd ever come. At UCLA, because he had winning teams all up there. We were like 14-12, and so that was as close as he came to having a losing season.
What a great man!
He was great.
Oh my gosh, I had old friend of mine, Mark Gottfried, the former Alabama and NC State, and he coached at UCLA when they won the basketball title. He got to spend a lot of time with Coach Wooden. But at UCLA, your senior year in 1960, you threw for 1,000 yards, which was a lot back then, and you finished 5th in the Heisman Trophy voting. You also ran for 800 yards. I got 2 questions. Number 1, were you fast? And number 2, you were a dual threat quarterback before it was even termed.
I was, back then I was fast enough. I ran the 40 in 4.8, 4.7 seconds there before I busted my leg in a car accident. And that was,
Right.
when I went to San Francisco.
Right.
But anyway, I was fast enough. I remember doing one sprints, and I stayed up with guys like Jimmy Johnson and Kerwin Alexander, and they were really Jimmy won the NCAA high hurdles at the time.
Yeah.
So, he was pretty quick.
Hey, I have a theory, and I talk to a lot of people about this. A lot of athletes actually, that there's a difference between practice speed and game speed when the adrenaline's going, and they're just called gamers. Do you believe in that as well?
Oh
Yeah.
No, definitely that. Yeah. In the game, you get that adrenaline pumping, and and everything. Of course, no doubt about it.
Oh my gosh, I remember tackling Eric Dickerson. I had no business running with Eric Dickerson, at any time, but in a game, it seemed like it could happen. All right, you said at UCLA, you also punted. A lot of people don't know this, but you were such a great athlete. You also punted for him for a while.
Yeah, well, I led the Pacific Coast in those days. I guess, I don't know if it's a Pac 6 or 7.
Yeah.
When I started at UCLA, they were on probation for NCAA violations.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think on my junior year, or maybe my senior year, they formed the Pac 6 at that time, which just included Washington, Stanford, Cal, UCLA, SC. And then they went on, they got Washington State, Oregon State later on. But it was just, they were reforming, which it ended up the Big 12, and now they're disbanding, and I don't know what's going to happen to the Pacific Coast.
Yeah, that's sad. That's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Wow, you were 11th overall pick, the San Francisco 49ers in the NFL draft. Where were you when you got that phone call, and who did you celebrate with?
Well, you remember in those days, the NFL draft was before the college season ever ended. It was like they had it in December.
Oh my God!
We had two more games left to play when they drafted me, and so I was watching the draft. I think it was one of the first televised games, but. See, the American, they were rivals with the American League. It just started forming the year before. They started their run, and so they were rivals with the American League. And the American League was rating a lot of players. A lot of players that I knew, I didn't realize they had signed during the season. The American League had already signed a bunch of the good players.
Wow.
That ended up, I was drafted by the Chargers. I was the LA, and they were the LA Chargers at the time because they played in LA that 1 year before they moved to San Diego. And I was like the 5th round choice for the Chargers that year. But I didn't know that the first 4 guys that they got, Keith Lincoln was one of them. And Keith and I went to grammar school together in Monrovia, California. And Keith had told me after we went to the East-West game together, and Keith told me that he had signed like halfway through the college season with the Chargers. And all the guys that they had signed had already signed, And it was that was against the rules, but, they kept it quiet.
My gosh, your rookie year, you're a running back for the 49ers because your head coach, Red Hickey, real name, and then you had Red Sanderson and then Red Hickey. You actually, your first game, I think it was, you scored 4 touchdowns against the Vikings. Is that right?
No, what had happened, see, he drafted me for the shotgun offense. And
Yeah.
he had put the shotgun in the year before. And, but if he was going to run the shotgun, he needed a guy who could run and throw
Right.
at the same time. Well, he had, at the time, had Wyatt Tittle and John Brody as his quarterbacks. And Brody was just now coming into his own. And so when I came in to the 49ers, we put in we ran the T. In the first 2 games, we won. We won, beat the Redskins early, first game of the year. Then we went to Green Bay and got beat pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And during training camp, Red would put in the shotgun, and we'd use it. We used it a little bit during this exhibition season that year, and we ran it pretty good. But then he shelved it for 2 games, and then we were going to play Detroit in our 3rd game of the season, and he put the shotgun in. But the thing about that, those days, he rotated 3 quarterbacks. I was always on first down. Bobby Waters came in on second down, and John Brody on third down. and see, I was always first down, and I ran it 90% of the time, or 95% of the time. I was a running back, and Bobby Waters would come in and whatever the down predicted, and then John Brody would never run in his whole life. He threw, no matter if it was first down, he came in, but they rotated the quarterback. Well, anyway, we played Detroit, the first game the first game that we put in the shotgun, and we beat Detroit 49-0, and I scored 2 touchdowns and gained 130 yards or something in that area. Then we went and played the LA Rams and beat them 35-0 at Kezar Stadium, and I scored another 2 touchdowns and ran for over 100 some yards, 20 yards or something. And then we went to Minnesota, and we played the Vikings up there. This was the 3rd game that we had the shotgun, and that's where I scored the 4 touchdowns and gained another 120, 30 yards. And so in 3 games, and we stayed in Milwaukee to work out those days for a week before we played the Chicago Bears the next week. And so Sports Illustrated came out and was doing a big layout. This supposedly is going to be the offense of the 60s, right?
Yeah.
And so they did all pictures to me and Brody and Bobby Waters and all that. And so we went down to play the Bears the next week, and they beat us 31-0. And they put a plug in the shotgun, and all of a sudden, I never saw that article. Never came out in Sports Illustrated. The next week, we went over and played Pittsburgh, and they beat us. We still ran the shotgun, but they beat us. Then we went back to play the Detroit Lions in Kezar, and they tied us. It was something like 14-14 or 17-17. I forgot the score. But anyway, they tied us. And the next week, the Bears were coming in town, and that's when Red shelled the shotgun, and I never saw it again.
They figured it out kind of quick after a couple of weeks. Oh, my gosh. You got a brilliant memory, Billy. Y.A. Tittle. Do you remember anything, or did you spend much time with Y.A. Tittle?
Oh, yeah. Well, the little time that I was there, I came in training camp after I was in the All-Star game in those days in Chicago. When we came in, I was a week. I was a couple of weeks. They had already been in camp a couple of weeks when I came in after that. And so I was there with Y.A. Tittle and for 4 or 5 days. And we were going to Portland and to play the New York Giants in Portland that weekend. So we went up to Portland and we were playing the game. And John Brody started the first half. So the second half came, and that's when Tittle went in. because they were alternate.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Sam Huff went up and down the line. Dick Bojalewski and all those good defensive linemen they had, and said, "Don't hit Tittle. Don't hit Tittle. He'll be here tomorrow." So after the game, the 49ers traded Tittle to the Giants there in 1961.
Oh my gosh!
And Tittle, Tittle later, after he retired from the Giants, he came back, and as the 49er passing coach in 1965 and 6. And Tittle coached me a little bit in quarterback, and that's when I went back to being a third-team quarterback back then, and he taught me a lot of fundamentals and everything. I knew Wade real well.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful memory. The great Y.A. Tittle.
Yeah.
Billy, you were actually part of the best fumble in NFL history. On October 25th, 1964, you caught a pass from George Myra, and you fumbled, and Vikings D lineman Jim Marshall picked it up and ran the wrong way, 66 yards into your end zone. My gosh, to just talk about that play, talk about what your coaches and everybody was saying after that. What were the reactions?
Well, it was one of my last. See, when I came back after my car accident and said I had to lay out all of 1963 because
Right.
I was in a car accident in right at the end of the 62 season and broke my leg.
Right.
And they said I'd probably never play again. But
Wow.
like I said, I went back to work for my dad, and I was pressing pants in Pomona in August. It's 100 degrees. And I was trying to get my leg back in shape, and that steam has hit me in the face. And I said, I'll never do this again. I went out and even ran harder to get this leg in shape. But I came back in 1964 and Jack Christensen was the coach then. Red fired Red Hickey the year before. And Jack made me a running back for that start of the season. So that's how I got to was in there as a running back. And I went out of the backfield and made a cut towards the center, and I got the ball. And as I ran up, I got turned around by the defensive back, a guy named Carl Kosoki came up behind me and hit the ball out of my hand. Now, Jim Marshall's running straight at me, but I got turned around, and I'm facing their goal. And when Kosoki hit me, the ball come out and took one bounce, and he's running full speed, and he catches it and runs right straight by, and it's about a 70-yard touchdown, safety, and he was running, and Bruce Mosley was our center at the time, and he's chasing him. The only guy chasing him was Mosley, and he ran in, and instead of dropping the ball, when he went in there, the stands are going crazy, and when he got in the end zone, he was so happy. Instead of just dropping the ball in the end zone where Bruce could jump on it and make a touchdown, he threw it in the stands, and we only got 2 points out of it.
You could have got a touchdown because the slowest. Hey, wait a minute.
He was so happy. He threw it in the stands, and I remember Fran Tarkey that ran all the way down to the end zone and was cussing him out. You ran the wrong way, and Marshall couldn't believe it.
Well, your center's supposed to be one of the smartest guys on the team, and he's chasing him, trying to catch him.
Yeah, right.
Thank God it was the slowest guy on the team, because the offensive line and the center.
He wasn't going to tackle him. I know that.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. You started, before the accident, or you actually started the better half of 4 years with the New Orleans Saints when you got traded. Talk a little bit about that experience, after your accident and everything, and And I love that story about your dad working in the steam hitting you. My dad, when I was in college at Alabama, I was a walk-on. And in the summertime, he made me work in a freezer at nighttime, the night shift, just so I would see, you know, what it's like to work for a living. And that's he kind of motivated me to, you know, get my degree. But that's interesting. Talk about your New Orleans Saints years.
Well, you know, it's probably the only reason I stayed in the NFL, because I was a third-team quarterback with the Niners there after my leg, you know, I couldn't run anymore. So and the only reason I stayed 2 more years with the Niners was they had a kicker named Tommy Davis who did all the punting and all the place kicking. And you know, the squads back then were only 35 or 34, 33-man squads back then.
Right.
So they couldn't have a luxury of keeping 3 quarterbacks, but they did those 2 years. And so then 1967 came up, and that's when I got on the expansion draft of the New Orleans Saints. That was their first year in existence. And I got picked, and the reason I got picked is Tom Fears was their head coach. And he was a UCLA guy and knew me from UCLA. You know, he had gone to UCLA, and he played for the Rams back in those days. And he knew about me, and he got me. And when I went there, I was the third team. I was their third quarterback on their list. When I got to training camp, they had just traded for Gary Quazzo from the Baltimore Colts and gave up a number 1 for him, which was Bubba Smith for Baltimore.
Wow.
And so, you know, we're playing, you know, and back then we played 6 exhibition games, and I got in all these exhibition games and did very well because we won all 6 of them. Wow. And I contributed to some touchdown passes and did all. And Gary, you know, and back then, the offensive lines we had then, well, you know, we had a pretty damn good defense that first year. We had Doug Atkins and some old Bears guys that were pretty good defensive linemen. Yeah. But our offense was, you know, very, very suspect, especially offensive line. Well, Gary, you know, he was a kind of pocket passer, and he needed a lot of protection, but you couldn't get it those first. You had to get rid of the ball quick. Well, I had the ability to do that, and I ended up, you know, beating him out of that first year, and I started the first game the Saints ever had there at Tulane Stadium.
Wow. Let's talk about the Washington years. I mean, those were just, you are a Washington Commander, Ring of Honor. What an honor that is. Talk about your head coach, George Allen.
I don't call them the Commanders because I never played for the Commanders.
You were the Redskins, right? I'm part. I've got some Native American blood in me, and I'm, you know, Redskins. I was always proud of the Washington Redskins and always honored that. And so I've got the same. Probably, I'm sure you've got a little deeper feelings on that, but. You're the Ring of Honor. Talk about your head coach George Allen and some of your teammates, like Hall of Famer Sonny Jurgensen. Talk about those years.
Well, they were great years. I mean, you know, for me, because when I got traded to the Redskins, I knew that I could play in NFL, and I knew there were certain places that needed quarterback. And when they traded me to the Redskins, all I thought about is I'm going to be behind Sonny Jurgensen. And he was young enough that he was going to play 3 or 4 or 5 more years. And so I said, well, I'll get parked in behind him, and I won't get a chance to play. Right. So I happened to be in Miami for the Super Bowl that year, and that's when I got traded from the Saints to the Redskins, and I got a call from George Allen, and said, why don't you come on up? I want to talk to you and everything. And in the conversation, I said, well, Coach, I appreciate you. You guys trading for me, but I got a chance to. I'm 32 years old now, or I will be, and I said I got a few more years, and I'd like to be a starting quarterback somewhere. Yeah. I knew there was a couple other teams that needed them. I heard Denver tried to trade for me, and I think Detroit at the time, and there was a couple other places that needed quarterbacks, and the Saints traded me behind Jurgensen, and I was mad about that. So anyway, at the time, I didn't realize that George Allen had kind of always wanted me on his team. I had no idea. Uh-huh. So I said, Coach, and he's like, he wouldn't really listen to me. He said, well, no, you come on up here. I want to talk to you. So I said, okay. And I said, but I can't come right now. I got to wait 2 more days. And he said, well, why? I said, well, I'm down here after the Super Bowl. I was down there with a good friend of mine that was running a horse at Hialeah in the stakes race. I got to see this. All of a sudden there was a silence. Who did I get this guy going to go to a horse race and he doesn't want to come up here? So anyway, he said, okay, you come up Thursday morning. It was on a Wednesday anyway. So I did. I flew up Thursday, and it so happened when I walked in the Redskin office, it was the day of the draft, and he had made a big trade. He had made a big trade with the Rams and brought in Darren Talbert and Jack Pardee and a whole bunch of Rams that played defense for him, and later on Richie Pettibone, and all the Rams he could get. He made he traded 5 players, and I don't know what the Rams got.
Wow.
But anyway, probably draft choice or something. And he was going on, see, we're gonna build up this defense. We're gonna have a team here, and he was so enthusiastic. And I've never been around a coach like this guy,
Yeah.
And he was, and single-minded. He knew football inside and out. And I forgot that the time that we went to the Bears when I was at the 49ers, and the shotgun was the hottest thing in the world. I forgot that George Allen was the defensive coach for the Bears in those days.
He's the one who stopped it.
He's the one who stopped it. But I at the time, I didn't realize that, all I'm trying to convince him, I don't want to be there, and I want to, go somewhere else. And so, anyway, he's putting together this team, and so I went to training camp, and I said, well, I'll stick it out a year. I even played out my option that year. And then Sonny got hurt in an exhibition game right here in Miami. He broke his shoulder. Mm-hmm. Now I'm the starting quarterback for the Redskins that first year in 71. And we won our first 5 games in a row, and we weren't supposed to win anything. The prognosticators had said, we were going to be in the last of that division, and we ended up, making a long story short, we made the playoffs that year, and went to San Francisco. We lost to them, and then the next year they come back, and now I'm the training camp in 72 is when George made me the starting quarterback going into camp, Yeah. But Sonny comes off his shoulder injury, and he's fine. So we're going back and forth, being
right.
I start the first 2 games in 72, and then I lose the third game. I threw 3 touchdown passes against New England, and we lose because the field goal kicker misses a field goal there at the last. And I get benched for Sonny. Now Sonny comes in and wins the next 2 or 3 games, and we're playing in New York. And in the first quarter, Sonny goes back to pass, and he throws one. And then the next thing, I'm watching the pass wherever it went, and then I look out, and Sonny's limping off the field. And he had snapped his Achilles that game, and he's out. Now Now I go back in, I got the job. And that's the year that we went to the Super Bowl in 1972.
Oh, my gosh.
It's kind of weird how that all
Yes.
you know.
Oh my gosh, what a great story. What a great story. You always have to be ready. Oh my gosh. People don't realize, Billy, that a lot of people get their chance when the guy ahead of them gets injured and then he plays so well you can't get back in. Matter of fact, my first game in the NFL, that's exactly what happened to me. The guy ahead of me got sick and I went in and had, NFC Player of the Week type of game. Yeah, I mean that's how it happens. But and when you guys weren't expected to win and you won those first 5 games, in football, that's one of the most satisfying things as a player or a coach is when you win when you're not supposed to.
Yeah, we electrified Washington D.C. They hadn't won there in 30-some years. And I remember our first 3 games were on the road, and we beat St. Louis, and then that was, we weren't favored in the game. And then we're playing the Giants up in New York because all our first 3 games were away, and we crushed the Giants up there. I threw for 300 yards. Then the next week, we got to play Dallas, in the Cotton Bowl they played in those days. And we beat Dallas in Dallas. And when we came home, there must have been 5,000 people at Dulles Airport that came to meet the plane. It was unbelievable. And they had the Dulles Access Road was jammed. Nobody could get up to Dulles. They had so many cars come out there.
Oh my gosh, Pro Bowl led the NFL in passing in 1972. A Pro Bowler, Super Bowl team that went and played the undefeated Miami Dolphins, and Coach Shula and all those guys. That was what an accomplishment. I played with Mike Shula. He's a good friend of mine at Alabama and Tampa Bay.
Well, he was just a kid then.
Yep.
He was like a ball boy.
Yep.
72.
Absolutely.
73 Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. Great guy too, man. Just a peach of a guy. Billy, you were one of the last quarterbacks to wear that single bar face mask. I know Theismann wore it and a couple other ones, but how many times how many teeth did you get knocked out? How many times you get your nose broke? And did you ever get poked in the eye?
I never got poked in the eye. I got my nose bloodied a few times, and I got my lip busted up. I never got, it's funny, I never got some teeth busted. I kept those, but I had a lot of caps on my teeth anyway.
All right. Billy, toughest teammate you ever had?
The toughest teammate?
Yeah.
Man, they were all tough. In the NFL.
Back in the day.
The one guy who really comes into mind was Doug Atkins. Doug Atkins was a defensive end. A lot of people would know. He came from the Bears, and I played with him the 3 years with the New Orleans Saints. And this guy was probably the strongest man I ever saw. I've seen him. You got to get him riled up, but I've seen him pick up tackles by the elbows and lift them off the ground and run them right back in the quarterback.
Wow.
He got upset, boy. He was the strongest guys I ever knew.
Who's the smartest teammate that you've ever had?
Smartest teammate I ever had? Well, it'd probably have to be offensive linemen because they're all smart guys.
Yes, they are. Yes, you have to be smart.
They're probably Lenny Haas.
Yeah. Wow. Because you can't be stupid to be on the offensive line. Best football coach that you've ever seen.
Oh, George Allen.
Yeah. Yep. George Allen.
George Allen's the best I ever had. Yeah.
Wow. Well, man, what a joy.
And he's in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah. You were on the yes. You're right. You were on the Saints when Tom Dempsey kicked that record 63-yard field goal. Talk a little bit about.
Set it up.
Talk about that game.
Well, we played the Detroit Lions in that game, and we were leading most of the game, and they made I think Greg Landry came in and made a last-second touchdown, and they were hit by 2 points or something, whatever it was, or 1 point, so they kicked into the end zone, and I'm on the 20-yard line, and I tell my receiver, wasn't a Bramlett, it was Dodd, a kid named Dodd, and I said, just go down. The defensive corner, I can't think of his name, but he was a good defensive coach for years for Pittsburgh. And them. Anyway, he was going to lay off 20 yards, 25 yards. I knew that. He wasn't going to let anybody go by. And I just told Al Dodd, I said, Al, go down there 20 yards, cut out, and I'll hit you. And I did. I probably threw the best spiral I had in a long time and hit him. And he laid out, and there was only a few seconds to go in the game. And I remember coming off the field because I figured they're going to, and our head coach was he just fired Tom Fears, and they put in, I can't remember. He was yelling, alley-oop, and one of the coaches, Don Heinrich, said, no, kick a field goal. Dempsey can kick it. So he's the one that they sent in the field goal team, and I'm going down, I figured, it's 63 yards, and it's,
no way.
It's in the Sugar Bowl, but it was,
sea level. Yeah.
We're below sea level and everything. And when he kicked that ball, it was like a rifle shot. It just shot out. I said, damn, he made that.
Wow.
And
Holy
he
God.
made it, but the Lions, they were laughing. They didn't even try to rush it. They had the defensive tackle, Alex Karras, he just dropped on the ground, He thought it was a joke we were trying that long field goal. And he made that. And I'll tell you what, the only thing I liked about it was I ran into the locker room because I didn't want to mess around out on the field or try to provide a hand, the other players. I could see them later. And I went in to get my uniform on. I got off and ran out, and everybody's still in the stadium carrying Dempsey around, and nobody was in the parking lot. And I said, I got in my car, and I was down in Bourbon Street in 15 minutes. It always took me an hour and a half, 2 hours to get out of those days.
Billy, you're just like me. I was known as a coach and probably as a player too. When the game's over, I'm out of there. I'm going to have a drink or have something to eat. I didn't want to hang around there. You were just like me in that respect. That's hilarious.
Oh God, yeah. I didn't want to hang around and shake hands with players.
Yeah, me neither. I didn't want to. Oh my gosh, what a joy, Billy! You're gonna be 84 next week. Happy Tuesday. Happy birthday, Billy. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. You're one of my heroes as a kid and my father as well. So thanks so much for doing this, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon, Billy.
Oh, that'd be fun. It was fun today.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow. Billy Kilmer, the great Billy Kilmer. Isn't that amazing? Thanks for watching Coach's Corner today, folks. Everybody have a great sports weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you. At Hill Kelly Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola. Or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.
Hey, Bill, some game, huh?
I haven't really noticed, Paul.
What? The biggest game of the year?
I've been looking over my insurance. Talk about problems I'm trying to figure out.
Well, do what I did. Call the Seiler Agency. They showed me what I needed and what I didn't. They even saved me money. Now, instead of worrying about my insurance, I can worry about the big game.
Contact the Seiler Agency at 476-7443 for all of your insurance needs. Your independent agent for home, auto, boat, RV, commercial, general liability, life, and sound investment strategies. Call 476-7443 today.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray, and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.
Step One works so hard to get you in the perfect car. Looking for a better car buying experience? With a Step One Advantage from Buick GMC, Fort Walton Beach, and Pensacola, receive no-hassle market-based pricing or incentives by pre-ordering. Looking to sell or trade? Our dedicated team will even come to you. Plus, every vehicle sold at Step One supports local charities right in your neighborhood. Experience the Step One Advantage at Buick GMC, Fort Walton Beach, and Pensacola today.
75 years of service and high-tech today. It's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348. High-tech is a term often applied to advanced services and products in today's marketplace. And today, glass is much more than a simple painted brittle, see-through stuff we hit baseballs through when we were kids. Glass is now a product with unique flexibility in both performance and application. And Pensacola Glass Company is growing right along. That's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348.
Did you know there's a place where you can get good neighbor service and surprisingly great rates on your home and auto insurance? Yep, and that place is, ta-da, State Farm. Here's the deal. State Farm agent Will Rentschler is your go-to agent in Pensacola, Florida for the service you deserve at the price that you want. So stop shopping around. State Farm agent Will Rentschler has you covered. Call 850-433-4678 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Legal disclaimer, individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.